I'm Dean Bushmiller, and this is Supply Chain Risk. If you're not seeing the full version of this video, you can go to expandingsecurity.com to get this, quizzes, badges, and even the mind map with all the dynamic links in it. So let's get started. When we talk about supply chain life cycle or supply chain risk management, I need to give you a good example to start us off with. And this actually happened to me, so I feel like it's a reasonable thing to talk about. So, for example, Node Package Manager that's out there. Okay, you may have heard about this. This is for JavaScript. Usually only JavaScript programmers know about this. I only know about this because I read about this. Now, you might rely on something called colors.js, that module. And you would know this if you would worked with any Linux command line where they had a kind of a cool color setup on that command line. And so this, you wouldn't see all this garbage here, but this is a great example of it. Right now, there are more than 22,000 projects that depend on this particular package in Node Package Manager. What's more important is that there, in the last week, 30 million different instances actually downloaded a use of this. Okay, so you got that in your mind. So there's across the planet, there are 30 million of these actually happening. And so what happened was is the developer got really, really angry because nobody was paying any money. They weren't, they weren't putting anything in his tip cup or any of those kinds of things. So what he did was he trashed all of his own code at one point in time. He created this infinite loop so that nothing would work. And basically he broke all the 22,000 instantiations. All the 22,000 different dependencies that are out there, those projects that depend on this, and 30 million, well, not 30 million implementations, but anybody at that moment in time who went to do the update and pulled from there, they got hammered right away. Only JavaScript programmers would actually know this. So when you think about this, supply chain failures are passed by your suppliers of your products and your services to you. But remember, there might be some sort of modifications from upstream that even your suppliers don't know about. So you have to know about that in every single one of your projects that's out there. Now, this is not just external software where you go to open source. This is everything, but I use that one because it's very familiar to me. Okay, so remember, if you accept updates to your source code automatically, you're toast, you're done, you've had it, okay? So where do we get it from? Well, supply chain operations are usually multinational with parts and components, assembly and delivery occurring across multiple countries. And this is both hardware and software. And the attacker can go after it at any point in that chain from where it was built to where it was delivered. These really, most of the time we deal with software dependencies, but there are hardware dependencies out there for other organizations. So how do we know where it is? And the answer is we really don't. Now, what's happening is we could have manipulations of computer systems, hardware, software, or services all along that chain to us. The place that I see this happening more often, as an example, would be like SolarWinds. When they got attacked, their supply chain actually got attacked. Actually, it was inserted into their update package manager so that when anybody pulled from them, they got a corrupt version, which then led to corruption after corruption, which led to, unfortunately, a denial of service and actually stealing the data of their customers. So why did they do this? Well, it's because of espionage. It's theft of critical data or technology, disruption of mission critical things, a denial of service that's been happening in the Ukraine on both operations and infrastructure. So the problems that we have is sometimes, like in early development, I know this happens to me, we're trying to create a proof of concept creation. And sometimes we're just trying to make this thing work. So we'll grab anything and move on. Oh, this one works for me. I tested it. It worked. Okay, now I'm ready to go. And then that becomes a part of my product. And I didn't even think about that. There's also turnkey software out there that don't support the mission fully. Like you buy Word and you need a really cool Word macro editor on top of it. So you're forced to use third-party components. what do you know about those underlying security properties of that third-party component? Well, you don't, okay? And then what happens is the people internally for your organization, they lack confidence in those commercial off-the-shelf software, consumer off-the-shelf. It also is government off-the-shelf software. So remember, it's installed and it really is an executable that has all these dependencies in it as it's been brought to you. You're going to look mostly and focus in on what's called non-developmental software. So if you have a problem with your coding interface, let's say that you're using Visual Studio and Visual Studio has been attacked, you have an entirely different set of problems. You're not really looking at this from the SolarWinds standpoint. You're looking at this from the Parrot OS standpoint. So we're looking at component-based software engineering. And in the component-based software engineering, we're talking about software components, how the components will interact, and the security components of those the security properties of those components. When we're looking at the security properties, how can we tell those security properties? And the answer is we really don't know. So a supply chain compromise can take place at any stage along the way. Usually, I believe that initial access is the best place to go after you. That's when you haven't established any of your secure communications with the vendor, or you're just trying to get it up and running. Like you've installed Word and now you need this macro editor to work. It's some new tool that you need, and you go out there and you download that code and you just want it to work. So you download it, it doesn't work. You go to an alternate location and download it from, oh, you downloaded it from the wrong location. And so you were willing to do anything at that point just to get it up and running. What happens a lot of times is we have a lot of manipulation, and that centers around things like the development tools of the developers themselves, their development environment, their source code repositories, not our stuff, but their stuff out there. Source code open source dependencies, that's really a big thing for us today. And software update and distribution mechanisms, that's what happened to SolarWinds. You also have infected system images, and this comes a lot of times from downloading something that's been uploaded to their website and they don't have the MD5 hash or signing of the code done to it properly, or it's been manipulated so that it looks like it was originally signed. The replacement of legitimate software with modified versions happens all the time, and we can get that in a variety of different places along the stream. Sale of modified or counterfeit products to legitimate distributors, to the distributors themselves. I've actually seen implementations where a distributor was supposed to be deploying software and they were selling Microsoft Office, and a attacker came in and bought they bought a similar domain name, so they did a typo squatting thing. They created a coupon and they advertised for that coupon on Google. They advertised for it, and when they came in, when the people came in, they got a discount on the software. They were getting compromised software, and the software was rebuilt inside of there to have an ultimate compromise inside of it. Okay, now there could be, in theory, shipment interdiction. That means that when I went and bought it and I sent it to you over DHL or FedEx or the Postal Service, that somebody along the way grabbed that package, opened it up and said, okay, I'm going to take out that USB drive and I'm going to put in this USB drive, and then I'm going to repackage it and I'm going to send it along the way to you. That's super secret kind of spy stuff. We don't normally deal with that. So this is the start to what's called supply chain risk.